Have you ever made a promise you wish you could take back? A vow that felt harmless at the time, but spiraled into something terrifying? Well, gather round, because tonight I'm about to share the chilling tale of Ria, a woman whose desperate wish for love led her down a dark path of sacrifice. If you find this story haunting, don't forget to like, share, and drop a comment. Let's dive in. Ria had always envisioned a perfect life. She had recently married a kind man named Mark, who seemed to embody everything she had ever desired. He was caring and attentive, willing to do anything to make her happy. But there was a catch. Mark had a daughter, Lila, from his previous marriage. Ria adored the little girl, but sadly, Lila remained emotionally distant, still mourning the loss of her mother, who had tragically drowned in the Suriname River a few years prior when a small boat capsized during their crossing. Ria tried everything to win Lila's affection. She bought her toys, made her favorite meals, and even attempted to bond over arts and crafts. But nothing seemed to work. Lila was still deeply entrenched in her grief, and no matter how hard Ria tried, the child's heart remained closed. Every time Ria saw Lila gazing at her mother's picture, her heart ached with a mix of sadness and frustration. As the months passed, Ria's own longing for a child grew stronger. She dreamed of hearing the laughter of her own baby echoing through their home. But despite her best efforts, she faced disappointment month after month. With each failed attempt, the weight of loneliness became unbearable. Whenever the burden became too much, Ria sought solace in a secluded spot filled with trees where she could cry freely. One day, she found herself on a quiet, sandy path, sitting under a grand manjack tree weeping. In her despair, she cried out, "Why? Why can't I have a child?" Her voice trembled with sorrow, and her heart felt heavy. As she wiped her tears, she noticed an old woman sitting next to her. The woman had a kind but mysterious expression, and her eyes seemed to hold ancient wisdom. "What troubles you, my child?" she asked, her voice soothing yet powerful. "I see you here often. I live nearby. Can I help?" Through her tears, Ria managed a smile. "No, I don't think so. But thank you, Grandma." "Grandma? That's what I long to hear," the old woman replied, her face lighting up with a gentle smile. Suddenly, Ria felt compelled to share her sorrow. She poured out her heart, speaking of her struggles to connect with Lila and her longing for a child of her own. After Ria finished, the old woman dried Ria's tears and said, "I can help you." Ria's heart raced with hope. "Really? How?" she asked eagerly. The woman leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "If you follow my advice precisely, you will be pregnant within 3 months." Ria could hardly contain her excitement. This was the answer she had been praying for. "But there is a price," the old woman added, her expression turning serious. "You must promise me that your stepdaughter will call me Mama." Ria hesitated for a moment, a chill running down her spine. But in her desperation, she thought, "As long as I get something of my own, she doesn't want me anyway." Without fully understanding the implications, she reluctantly agreed. The old woman handed her a small vial of strange juice and said, "Promise me, my child, no turning back now." Days turned into weeks, and Ria followed the woman's advice meticulously. She felt a growing sense of anticipation. Miraculously, Lila began to cling to her, calling her Mama. The little girl's affection, was like a balm to Ria's aching heart. And then came the moment Ria had longed for. She discovered she was pregnant. Their family was filled with joy and laughter, and life seemed perfect. But then, everything changed. One evening, there was a knock at the door. Mark answered it and called for Ria. When she reached the door, her heart sank at the sight of the old woman, looking frazzled and upset. "You have everything you wanted," the woman said sharply. "But what about your promise? You've forgotten your vow, and now you will pay for it." Ria felt a wave of panic wash over her. "What are you talking about?" she stammered. "You are forgetting the price of your desires," the old woman hissed, before turning and disappearing into the darkness, leaving Ria trembling on the doorstep. "What was that about?" Mark asked, confusion etched on his face. "Darling, that woman is crazy. I don't know her," Ria replied, trying to shake off the unease that had settled in her stomach. The following days were unsettling. Every night, they saw the old woman standing outside their home, crying and repeating, "You promised." Her haunting presence filled Ria with dread. One night, Mark, fed up with the haunting, decided to confront the woman. He stepped out into the night, but every time he approached, she seemed to vanish further away. It wasn't until he found himself on an abandoned path by an old graveyard that he realized how lost he was. Suddenly, the woman appeared behind him, her voice echoing with malice. "Promises come with a price," she said ominously. "You will pay." And just like that, she vanished, leaving Mark standing in shock. He raced back home, his heart pounding, unable to comprehend what had just happened. His mind was racing with fear and confusion. Days turned into a blur, and soon he was consumed by paranoia. The torment had begun. Ria noticed Mark slipping away from her, lost in a haze of fear. He became reliant on medication, desperately trying to escape the grip of madness that had taken hold of him. Ria watched helplessly as he was admitted to a psychiatric facility, his once bright spirit extinguished. But the nightmare didn't end there. Ria started seeing the old woman everywhere. Her haunting figure lingered at the edge of her vision, and her stepdaughter, Lila, began to act strangely. She would stand in front of the mirror, holding long conversations with an unseen figure. "No, not you, my new mama," Lila would say, her voice filled with childish defiance. "I'm going to live with her soon." Terrified, Ria asked Lila to describe the woman she spoke to. It was the old woman. One night, while bathing, Ria heard the wailing and lamenting again. The bathroom door slammed open and shut violently. She saw the old woman standing in the hallway, a wicked smile on her lips. "I am here. There's nothing you can do now," the woman taunted. Panic surged through Ria as she heard screams echoing from the girl's room. Smoke filled the air. The house was on fire. Ria grabbed her towel, desperate to save her children. As she rushed to their room, the flames engulfed everything, and the laughter of the old woman echoed in her ears. Neighbors rushed to help, but they held her back as she tried to leap into the flames. "Let me go! I need to save them," she cried. But it was too late. She watched in horror as the fire consumed the only family she had left. Ria lost both children that night, a devastating sacrifice that shattered her soul. Haunted by guilt, Ria recounted her tale to anyone who would listen, but many dismissed her as mad, refusing to believe her story. But we believe her because we knew her well. Ria is not her real name. She died alone and in despair. When her body was found, her breasts were burned, and her legs charred up to her knees. The rest remained intact. Once a vibrant, happy woman, what or who she promised, we will never know. As Ria's tale of sorrow lingered in the air, we could almost hear the echoes of her laughter before the darkness consumed her life. But what if I told you that Ria's story didn't end with her tragic demise? What if there were consequences to her actions that she never anticipated? After the fire, the townsfolk whispered of a curse that hung over Ria's home, a darkness that seeped into the very soil beneath it. Some claimed that the old woman, the one who had made Ria's wishes come true, was still watching, waiting for the next soul to make a desperate bargain. Years passed, and the house stood abandoned, overtaken by vines and shadows. But one fateful night, a young couple, Alex and Mia, looking for a place to escape their own troubles, stumbled upon the dilapidated home. Ignoring the warnings from locals about the haunted house, they were drawn in by a feeling they couldn't quite place. As they explored the crumbling structure, they found remnants of Ria's life, old toys, faded photographs, and a journal filled with her hopes and dreams. Intrigued, Mia flipped through the pages, her heart racing as she read Ria's desperate pleas for love and acceptance. "Maybe we can make a wish of our own," Mia joked, a mischievous glint in her eye. But Alex, sensing the weight of the room, shook his head. "Let's not. This place feels wrong." But the allure of the old woman's promise lingered in Mia's mind. That night, while Alex slept, she found herself drawn to the old manjack tree in the overgrown garden. Underneath its twisted branches, she could almost hear the whispers of the past. In a moment of reckless abandon, she took out her phone and began recording. "Old woman of the tree," she called out, her voice steady despite the chill in the air. "If you can hear me, grant me the love I seek. I promise to share my joy with you." As the words left her lips, a sudden gust of wind swept through the garden, extinguishing the flickering light of her phone. Darkness enveloped her, and she felt an icy grip on her heart. In a flash, the air was filled with the old woman's laughter. "Another soul seeking a bargain?" she hissed. "You've made your wish, but every wish has a price." Panic set in as Mia realized the gravity of her words. She turned to run, but it was too late. The ground beneath her trembled, and shadows erupted from the earth, twisting and coiling around her legs. Meanwhile, Alex awoke to the sound of Mia's screams. He raced outside, only to find her trapped in a whirlwind of darkness, the old woman's figure emerging from the shadows, grinning wickedly. "Mia!" he shouted, but his voice was lost in the chaos. The old woman raised a bony finger, pointing directly at him. "You've brought her here. You will pay for her wish." Suddenly, everything went silent. The shadows receded, and Mia collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. The old woman vanished, leaving only a haunting echo of her laughter in the night. "Mia, are you okay?" Alex cried, rushing to her side. I think I made a terrible mistake," she whispered, trembling. "She's coming for us, Alex. We have to leave this place." As they fled the house, the air grew colder, and the trees whispered ominously around them. They drove away, but the feeling of being watched lingered. Months later, they settled into a new town, trying to leave the past behind. But the darkness followed them. Mia began to have nightmares of the old woman, her face twisted in rage, and the whispers grew louder each night. One evening, as they were unpacking, Mia found an old photograph hidden in a box, a picture of Ria, smiling with a child in her arms. But there was something familiar about the child's face. As she turned the photo over, her blood ran cold. Written in shaky handwriting were the words, "Promise made, price to pay." In that moment, Mia realized the horrifying truth. The child in the photograph was her. The old woman had granted Ria's wish by stealing the love that was meant for Mia, binding her to a fate she had never chosen. And then, a knock echoed through their home. Heart racing, Alex opened the door, revealing a shadowy figure standing just outside. A familiar face twisted into a smile that was both warm and chilling. "Hello, Mama," Lila said, her voice eerily sweet. The darkness had found them again, and this time it would not let them go. So, what lesson can we take from Ria's tragic tale? Don't make empty promises. Be careful what you vow. The price may be far greater than you can imagine. If you found this story haunting, let us know in the comments below. Did it send chills down your spine? Don't forget to like and share this video with your friends. Until next time, keep your promises close, but be wary of the cost.